What's going on, guys? Brandon here. Monday, May 1st, 2023. We have banks failing again, predictably, because that's what Ponzi schemes do. They collapse. Jamie Dimon saying, oh, the first part of the crisis is over, letting the cat out of the bag to signal within the noise. And we have really markets selling off, the important part of the market. So let's dive into this. And we always talk about the big three. This is what we do. We talk about the big three and then the big three, the trifecta, and then the big three global liquidity indicators to kind of show us what's going on. The markets and the equities, the stock market is driven from the credit markets and the dollar, the XY. Seeing what is happening with the puppet masters at the top, it will show you what's going to happen underneath in the political world, in the equities world, stocks and things like that, for your 401k, etc. So that's why we always look at what is driving. I've thought many times about renaming this Band-Aids on bullet holes. We are a society constantly thinking about 6-minute abs and popping pills to get better instead of just getting at the core issues. So that's what we do here. Financially, we look at the core issues to see what is actually happening. The 10-year treasury is a benchmark yield for all yields. It's almost at 3.6%. So bond yield selling off, yield rising after some dips down and a trend down over the last 6 to 8 months. But again, we've had some pops here in the market and people getting a little skittish. Rate hikes apparently coming on Wednesday again, which will suck liquidity out of the system and make it hard on people. The more they raise rates, the Fed, the more people are leaving their deposits are leaving the banks and crushing banks. And the more you see yields rise across the earth, the more you are going to see countries fail and corporations fail, people fail. That's the game. That's the game we're in. The game is, as we've been talking about for a long time, is to crush the middle class and the poor, is to put people on their knees begging the government to be bailed out, begging government to take their liberties and freedoms so that they can have just a piece, just a little bit of security. This is what happens when you aren't prepared. When you aren't prepared for life and you don't have some Bitcoin, gold and silver, some food storage, some water, some energy, some survival techniques, the ability to purify water, the ability to figure out how to garden, some land, security, lead, ammo, firearms, and you don't build community, you don't have anyone around you that can even remotely tell you or teach you to do these things or do it with you or whatever, or help you in a situation, then you feel totally subservient to the government. And the government wants that. They breed this into people. This is why they've been brainwashing people, and this is why preppers and people get absolutely just roasted for years in mainstream media and culture, because they were breeding this out of people. Not my words. Again, go do your own research. DYOR. They've been breeding this out of people, what it meant to be American, rugged individualism, freedom, liberty, free markets, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness has been being bred out of Americans. And that word, bred out of them, we're going to coin that here, as I haven't heard that term anywhere, but we are going to start talking about this because they are trying to breed it out of the human beings in America and Western way of life. So welcome to the party. Welcome to the fourth turning. Way to start a Monday. Let's dive into this, though. We can only fix things, though, once we know the real answers. I was listening to some guys talk this weekend. I think it was Robert Kiyosaki and Ken McElroy, I believe. And they were listening to some guy. I tweeted out, but they didn't mention who the guy was. I have no idea. And they were just talking about truth. And the truth is the truth, period. And the further people get away from the truth, the poorer they are. And that goes for all walks of life: health, wealth, happiness, etc. The further you are from the truth, the unhappier you are. Just go look at the protests. Look at the people out there screaming when certain people get elected and yelling, and the people trying to teach your children in schools, and the unhappiness and the culture rot everywhere. That is deep, dark, satanic unhappiness. We are in a clown world we live in because of the unhappiness and because of the subservience and the serf-like mentality of so many people, because they can't get along, they can't do anything, and people seeking attention. They haven't gotten attention their entire life. Maybe they grew up in a culture rot family, or they grew up in a society that, again, their culture rot family they lived in, or the city they lived in, was smash and grabs all day long, and they grew up in an area that was destroyed by the culture rot, that was destroyed by terrible government policies. So you can't just pin the blame on one person. This is a cultural problem, and we continue as people to just let this fester and continue down the road. And here we are. This is what it's led to. This pervasive illness of no accountability, no responsibility. And because of this, we have bond yields flying all over, coming back full circle, which they're not supposed to. We have banks collapsing. We have the dollar collapsing. People leaving the dollar network because people don't trust Americans, because the communist, the one world government ilk has been breeding it out of us. Again, read all the books we constantly tell you about all the time. The Communist Manifesto, the Capitalist Manifesto, the Grand Chessboard, the Collapse, the Naked Communist, the Conspirators' Hierarchy, Tragedy and Hope, Klaus Schwab's books, Great Reset, The Great Narrative. The guys, Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, they've been telling us about this forever. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, George Orwell's 1984. Read the books. Do the homework. Do the research. Once you do, you become so confident. You become such a confident person. Because of this, we have things collapsing all around us and no one has any idea why. So obviously, the DXY is going up in strength because you have the yields rising. You've got people jumping out into cash. So people flooding into cash, the dollar is strengthening because they're selling out of bonds, jumping into cash. And because of that, crude oil has been dipping a little bit. People are a little scared. Hey, whoa, maybe we're reversing. Maybe we're not going to have this boom later. Or maybe we're going to have some recession. So oil has been collapsing. Gold and silver now, the three global liquidity indicators, gold and silver are now down, and Bitcoin down now a couple percent over the last few days because of the unshakiness of what's happening in the world and people just getting into cash quick, which is still the play. It's the dollar milkshake theory by Brent Johnson. People getting into the dollar, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what's going to happen, trying to reposition themselves. And that's things we're doing here too. Selling one of our rental properties, it looks like, to get a bunch of cash on hand, to get a lot of dry powder because of what's happening going forward. So prepare yourself. The number one thing is to prepare yourself. No one wants to talk about. Everyone wants to talk about, fantasy football and be distracted by the things going on, and then they wonder why they don't have what they want. And I still have a lot of things I need to fix in my life. I need to start getting to bed earlier. I need to start being a better person, getting to bed earlier and getting up even earlier, and make sure I'm getting all the things I need to get done in the morning. That's one of my biggest vices. And I've had this mantra of you can sleep when you're dead my entire life. And it's probably been one of the things that's kept me back from even greater heights, I guess, if you will, right? But things happen for a reason, and it is what it is. I need to better that. That's what life is. It's about progress and about fixing the vices and working on the issue that you have, and we all have them. So what are yours? Let's try to drop the ego and be humble. Stay humble and stack sats. So speaking of that, is Bitcoin running? Since we know the banks aren't running, failing more, we don't know the issuance. So we don't know the issuance for the Fed. We don't know if they're going to raise rates or not. Clown world. Don't know the issuance supply. Well, we know with Bitcoin with certainty until 2140, until mining runs out, and then it's just transaction fees after that to uphold the strength of the network. So we also don't know if banks are going to be running. Again, with Bitcoin, we know, like clockwork, every 10 minutes. Here we go. Mempool, check it out. Like clockwork. Pristine collateral you can count on every 10 minutes, every second of the day. This is such a change in humanity. We've never had this in all of human existence. And to see the clown world falling apart and contrast that and juxtapose it with the nature of Bitcoin, the robustness, the anti-fragility of Bitcoin is mind-blowing. And it gives Bitcoiners a huge advantage in life moving forward. So Bitcoin's running, as Noel Bowerley says, the sun is up. All that's left for us to do is talk about what's new, but also get prepared for what is coming down the pike. Get prepared, and you will be able to rest easy and also be able to thrive on the backside of this. So I appreciate you coming to my TED Talk. Please share this out because the algorithm hates truth. Jamie Dimon, by the way, Jamie Dimon saying, First Republic, going to CNBC, the first part of this crisis, this part of the crisis is over. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, the billionaire, coming from the billionaire CEO who has more shady connections than Epstein himself. You should go look into those connections. So, again, JP Morgan called in to do the dirty work, buy First Republic, and smooth things over. I find it hilarious that First Republic still failed even after, I think, Sam Callahan or someone put out like the $100 billion they got in like bailouts. Where'd that money go? Where'd that cash go? Did it go to depositors? Oh, maybe. Did it? It still failed. Like multiple 20, 30, $50 billion bailouts, and still failed. So that's your Ponzi scheme at work. That's your banking system. You've been told your entire life that banks are just part of life, but you are actually a private money lender. They don't tell you that. Hint, hint, you're the private money lender, and they might go gamble your money away, and they do, and they invest it, and you might not get it back. Sorry. There you go. Breaking news. So that's the banking system. And like Thomas Jefferson said, we said many times, if people allow the private banking system to grow up around the freedom and sovereignty we have and we have in America, then their children, your children, will grow up on a continent enslaved that their forefathers once conquered. So with that being said, let's get to work. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth. Do your own research. Trust but verify. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. And this is not financial advice. It's freedom advice. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.